Hello, everyone. This is William Armstrong here with a bit of a YouTube video. I'm going to explain my thoughts on all this. I'm no developer, I'm no programmer, I'm none of that, but I saw this on Bleeping Computer, and this is cybersecurity news here that a dev gets 4 years for creating kill switch on ex-employer systems. This is written by for Lawrence Abrams. It's published at 7:46 p.m., which is a few days ago. I'll explain. A software developer has been sentenced to 4 years in prison for sabotaging his ex-employer's Windows network with custom malware and a kill switch that locked out employees when his account was disabled. Davis Liu, 55 years old, a Chinese national living legally in Houston, Texas, worked for an Ohio-based company, reportedly Eatonton Corporation, from 2007 until his termination in 2019. After a corporate restructuring and subsequent demotion in 2018, the DOJ Department of Justice says that Liu retaliated by embedding malicious code throughout the company's Windows production environment. Ouch! The malicious code included an infinite Java thread loop designed to overwhelm servers and crash production systems. Essentially, a pitiful form of distributed denial of service attack or denial of service attack. Liu also created a kill switch named is DLE enabled NAD. Is Davis Liu enabled an Active Directory is what the kill switch is named after Davis Liu, I should say. That would automatically lock all users out of their accounts if his account was disabled in Active Directory. So if Davis Liu's account was locked, like disabled in Active Directory, all other all other employers' accounts would get automatically locked if his account was disabled in Active Directory as a form of retaliation. When his employment was terminated on September 9th, 2019, and his account disabled, the kill switch activated, causing thousands of users to be locked out of their systems. The defendant breached his employer's trust by using his access and technical knowledge to sabotage company networks, wreaking havoc and causing hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses for U.S. companies, said Acting Assistant Attorney General Matthew R. Galeotti. Galeotti. I hope I pronounced that name right. I'm sorry if I massacred that name wrong. When he was instructed to return his laptop, Lou reportedly deleted encrypted data from his device. Investigators later discovered search queries on the device, researching how to elevate privileges, hide processes, and quickly delete files. It's so rogue that this dev should known better not to create a malware kill switch that will lock out the ex-employer's systems. It would completely lock out all other users from accessing the system if his account was disabled in Active Directory, which is a really bad thing to do. So Davis Liu decided to have a V for Vendetta and retaliate by completely locking out all other employers or employees in the employer's system if his account was completely blocked in Active Directory. So as soon as Davis Liu's account is disabled in Active Directory, the malware kill switch quickly goes like that and locks out other employers too. If his is disabled first. If his wasn't disabled, then it would not take effect. My big response is womp 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 wow. Price is Right losing horn for that dev who decided to do that and now is facing 4 years in prison for that. Ouch. Here's another one I'm going to read. It occurred August 18th, just a few days back. And that'll be in this video after that. UK sentences serial hacker of 3,000 sites to 20 months in prison by Bill Toulas, written at 12:30, published by 12:36 p.m. and written at that time. A 26-year-old in the UK also had claimed to have hacked thousands of websites and was sentenced to 20 months in prison after pleading guilty earlier this year. Al Tahri Al Massacre of Rotherham, UK, was arrested in 2022 at least oh, 3 years ago, based on information received from U.S. law enforcement and charged for stealing login details of millions of Facebook users and hacking websites belonging to the government in Yemen and Israeli news outlet organizations in the U.S. and Canada. Al Massacre pleaded guilty to charges this year on March 17th. He was linked to extremist groups such as the Spider Team and Yemen Cyber Army, or YCA. According to the authorities in the UK, Massacre claimed on a form to have hacked more than 3,000 websites. However, the figure was not verified by the investigation. Analyzed forensic evidence has shown that Al Massacre has infiltrated the website of the Yemen Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Yemen Ministry of Security Media, deployed tools in Yemeni government websites to scan for usernames and vulnerabilities, hacked into Israeli News Live, accessing admin pages and downloading the entire site, targeted faith websites in Canada, U.S., targeted the California State Water Board website, Water Board rather, I should say, possessed stolen personal data from more than 4 million Facebook users, held stolen usernames and passwords for services such as Netflix and PayPal. In many cases, the hacker defaced and targeted defaced and hacked the hacker defaced and targeted sites to post political or religious messages. Al Massacre's attacks crippled the websites targeted, causing significant disruption to their users and organizations, just so that he could push the political and ideological views of the Yemen Cyber Army, stated Paul Foster, NCA's head of national cybersecurity, or National Cybercrime Unit, I should say, in the UK. He had also stolen personal data that could have enabled him to target and defraud millions of people. Al Massacre was due to stand trial for 10 offenses under the Computer Misuse Act in March, but eventually pleaded guilty to 9, resulting in a sentence of 20 months from Sheffield Crown Court. Okay. This article is written by Bill Trulos himself, and he's had over a decade of experience working on online publications covering open source Linux malware and data breach incidents and hacks. Well, this is supposed to be the end of the video, but I'm at least slide in at least one more article and give you a roundup towards the end of it directly. There is an issue in Linux that causes malware to be installed in desktop files to install malware and new attacks. But the TLDR is the Pakistani Act 36. Let me give you a roundup towards the end of it directly. There is an issue in Linux that causes malware to be installed in desktop files to install malware and new attacks. But the TLDR is the Pakistani Act 36, known as Advanced Persistent Threat. Cyber spies are using Linux desktop files to load new malware and new attacks against government defense entities in India. The activity documented in reports by Cypherma and CloudSec or CloudSEK aims at data exfiltration and persistent espionage access. Apt36 has previously used desktop files to load malware and targeted espionage operations in South Asia. The attacks were first spotted on August 1st, 2025, which is this month, based on the latest evidence, are still ongoing. Desktop file abuse. Although the attacks described in the two reports use different infrastructure and samples based on hashes, the techniques and tactics and procedures PTP's attack chains and apparent goals are the same. Victims receive zip archives from phishing emails containing a malicious.desktop file disguised as a PDF document and named accordingly. Linux.desktop files are text-based application launchers that contain configuration options dictating how the desktop environment should display and run an app. Users open the .desktop file thinking it's a PDF, which causes a bash command hidden in the exec equal field to create a temporary file named /temp, where it writes a hex-encoded payload fetched from an attacker's server on Google Drive. Sometimes attackers use Google Drive to host malware on too. No. Then it runs chmod plus X to make it executable and launches it in the background. To lower suspicion for the victim, the script also launches Firefox to display a benign decoy PDF file hosted on Google Drive. Here, the decoy PDF right here is used in attacks, but it launches a Firefox browser to hide what it's doing in the background. In addition to the manipulation of the exec field to run a sequence of shell commands, the attackers also added fields like terminal equal false to hide the terminal window from the user, and x-gnome autocert enable true to or equal true to run the file at every login. Typically, the .desktop files in Linux are plain text shortcut files defining icon, name, and command to execute when the user clicks it. However, in app36 attacks, the attackers abuse this launcher and a mechanism to turn it essentially into a malware dropper and persistence establishment system, similar to how the LNK shortcuts are abused on Windows. Because .desktop files on Linux are typically text, not binaries, and as their abuse isn't widely documented, security tools on the platform are unlikely to monitor them as potential threats. The payload dropped by the malform.desktop file in this case is a Go-based ELF format or ELF executable format that performs espionage functions. I really won't explain what ELF dot or mainly ELF files are for. I won't. Although panicking and obfuscation made analysis challenging, the researchers found that it can be set to stay hidden or attempt to set up its separate persistence using cron jobs and systemd services. Communication with the C2 is made through a bidirectional WebSocket channel, allowing data exfiltration and remote command execution. Here's the overview of the attack. Hold on for a second. Whoops. Hang on just for 1 second. Okay, I'm back. This is what I was going to point out, that right here is the attack chain of the malware infection on Linux desktop or Linux systems. No, it's not really going to hit home users as much that use Linux, but it's going to hit corporate machines like that because Linux is not really widely used by everyone. It's only used by some companies or some individuals that choose to go open source, but I use Linux for daily desktop use on a spare computer though. But it says here the initial access is through the phishing. It says threat actors distribute the payload zip archive via targeted phishing emails to Indian defense personnel. If I can just zoom in on that a little bit. It won't let me zoom in on that. I'll have to read it like it is. It says here the malicious.desktop file is execution. Victim extraction executes the disguised.desktop file believing it's a PDF document. Then it goes to Google Drive. Download Google Drive payload. That desktop file downloads the hex encoded payload from Google Drive using curl. Curl is a way to download files or web pages using curl in a terminal called curl, C-U-R-L. Defense evasion. Decoy, and execution. Malware spawns decoy PDF in Firefox while executing Go binary payload in the background. It says here, persistence, system integration. The Go binary establishes persistence through auto start mechanisms and system services, systemd. discovery and anti-analysis. Malware performs environment checks, anti-debugging, and sandbox detection. Command and control WebSocket C2 establishes persistent WebSocket connection to C2 server for remote command execution. I'm reading that flow chart out because I can't zoom in on the flow chart at all. I can get an up close look, but it won't let me go any further on the zoom. It's by Cloud SEK that published the overview of the attack. Both cybersecurity firms shine this latest campaign to be a sign of the evolution of the Act 36's tactics, which are turning more evasive and more sophisticated. That's all I have to say here. I apologize if the video is 13 minutes long, but I decided to cover 3 stories into one video instead of making multiple videos. But this might get split into 3 separate videos or kept into one, depending on how I feel. But other than that, my opinions at the end of this is that cyber criminals are getting more and more sophisticated as time rolls on, in the fact that a developer gets so angry and pissed off that he decides to get back at the company he used to work at where he was terminated from by unleashing a malware that would initiate a custom kill switch that would lock out other users if his account was disabled in active domain direct or an active directory domain in the company he worked at. And the fact that the UK, the person gets sentenced to 20 months in prison for a serial hacker of over 3,000 sites doing collateral damage, like not collateral, but doing literal damage to it, affecting companies as a whole and targeting other websites too. I have heard of Metasploit. I've heard of Kali Linux, formerly known as Backtrack Linux. I've heard of those, and those are used for penetration testing. And other Linux operating systems used for security pen testing, I've heard of those. And those can also be used for both good and bad purposes, depending on how you use them, depending on how you choose to use them. But note that computer networks may have an intrusion detection system known as IDS, or intrusion detection system, that acts like an alarm system to warn IT staff of possible network intrusions from the outside internet directly. It's like an alarm system for the computer network where if some kind of cyber attacker tries to break in, the intrusion detection system can sometimes be tripped by the cyber criminal if they don't know what they're doing, or if they know what they're doing to avoid tripping any kind of alarm, they still will be able to break into a computer network without tripping any kind of security alarms on the network or computers themselves. That's pretty much it. But this is William Armstrong. See you.